Hello. This video is called My Experience with Wata 2024. As you know, if you're watching this, it's spelled W-A-T-A, and Wata is a company that claims to be able to grade video games, but not only video games, they've also branched off into other material and other media. So I've never used it before, and I've only been collecting games for about 1 year, just as an alternative investment, because everything in the stock market is so high that it's just, you can't buy anything now because everything is way too high. And I also like video games, and I've played them, and I especially like the soundtracks. So I have a very, very valuable game for the Sega Genesis, and it's sealed. It's called Golden Axe. I'll show you. Okay, this is the Sega Genesis Golden Axe. I also have another video on my channel where you can see this game. So the seal is great, and I recently saw another copy on eBay sealed also, and the seal was exactly the same. And I saw a third copy a couple of months ago, and the seal was also exactly the same. So when you're collecting video games and you're not sure if it's real or not, you look for a similarity between different sealed copies, and usually if the seal is the same on those different copies, you can guess that the game is real. So for the longest time, I wasn't sure if I should send this game in because I didn't know what would happen. But after I saw copy after copy exactly the same, and also I saw graded copies of Sega Genesis games from older times with the similar seal. I'll show you. The seal is similar on the top here, like how the plastic hangs over it on the top. And also you can see there's like little crinkles kind of over the top of the seal. You can't see it here, but I looked for those in other Sega Genesis games, and after doing, I don't know, maybe about 8 combined hours of research over 1 year, I decided that it was good enough for me and that I think this game is real. So about a month ago, I sent it in to them. I paid them $250. I had to pay them, hold on. I had to pay them $150 for their warp speed, and then I had to pay 2% of what I think the game is worth, the insurance. So that game, I figured it was worth $5,000, though probably it's worth a lot more. So I put $5,000, and I had to pay maybe $100 there, and then you got to pay for shipping. So altogether, it came out to $250. And then I mailed the game to them, and I was waiting, watching the grading process. And then a couple of weeks later, they sent me an email saying they can't grade it. They said specifically, we're not saying that it's counterfeit, but we're just saying we can't grade it. So then I sent them a picture of the similar game with the same seal but from a different eBay sale, and they said it's not the seal specifically that's wrong, we just can't grade it. Alright, so now I'm going to give you my opinion of Wata. I don't think Wata is able to grade it because the Sega Genesis clamshell seals are different. They're all over the place. Now keep in mind, Sega Genesis is probably the second most popular and influential system to have ever been created after the Nintendo. So Golden Axe is probably one of the most significant and popular games, important games, in the Sega Genesis library, the second most popular system, one of the most popular games. Now, you're telling me that Wata has experts there, that they're the best in the business, but they can't tell me if a Golden Axe from Sega Genesis is real or not? I mean, if it's not real, come out and tell me. I'm still not going to believe them because there's nothing wrong with this, and there has to be copies of Golden Axe still around. Why can't this be one? Now, Wata, what they should be able to do is to get in touch with somebody from Sega Genesis who worked there in 1989 and 1990 and ask them if it's real or not. All the money that Wata has, they should have experts who worked at Sega 30 years ago who could say if this game is right or not. Wata should have ways that they can possibly weigh the game in combination with another similar Golden Axe game. They should have ways that they can look inside the box with some kind of machine, like you see Elon Musk. Elon Musk can invent so many great things. He has walking robots, he has his robo-taxi, but you're telling me that Wata can't find a way to tell me if this game is real or not? They can't somehow carbon date it for non-carbon things? So it got me thinking, what exactly can Wata grade? And I came to the conclusion that really Wata can only grade things that I already know are real, such as this Final Fantasy VIII copy. You see how on the top it has the label there, and it's folded a certain way. I know that's real before I get it graded, and I know it's real when I buy it. Alright, now let's look at NES games. This is a copy of Turtles the Arcade, and it has the H seal on the back. It's a seam that, most of the Nintendo games have, and it goes across the back. So I know it's real before I buy it because I look at the pictures online and I see that it has the H seam. Same thing with the Super Nintendo games, same thing with the PS2 games, the Nintendo 64 games, the Game Boy games. We already know they're real before we send them to Wata because they have a specific seam on them, and I haven't seen any counterfeit copies of those games that are sealed the exact same way. So it got me thinking, if Wata can't tell me if the second most popular console, one of the most popular games, is real or not, what can they tell me? Obviously then, we come to a condition that they can't tell me if an Atari 1600 game is real or not. They can't tell me if a Commodore 64 game is real or not. They can't tell me if a PC big box game is real or not because the seals of the plastic are different. So oftentimes I think that if you send Wata a Commodore 64 game or a Sega Genesis clamshell game, they will only grade it if they are A, very certain that it's real, meaning that there are many copies out there like Sonic the Hedgehog 2 or Sonic the Hedgehog, or B, they will put a grade on it if the game is not in excess of maybe $700. Because Wata wants to avoid saying this is a legitimate real copy. They want to avoid the mistake that perhaps it isn't. So if you have valuable games at your house from Sega Genesis, from other systems, and they are also very rare, you can't even send them into Wata because Wata can only grade games that either A, have the specific seal like the NES games or have the label like the PS1 games, or B, are common enough that they have seen many, many copies of it. So my copy of Golden Axe, Wata said, is questionable. Now, if this game was real, it would be worth maybe $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $60,000. But now, because Wata can't grade it, I don't think the other companies will be able to grade it. So now I just have to hang on to it until I see more evidence. But why cannot Wata grade this game? Well, I think it's because Wata is doing too many frivolous and non-necessary things. They should be concentrating most on grading sealed copies of games. But you know what Wata is doing? They're spending their time grading PS4 games. They're spending their time grading Nintendo Switch games. So people go out to Walmart and they buy a 2021 Nintendo Switch game. Anybody could buy it, but they decide to send it into Wata because they think that if Wata gives them a higher grade, they can sell the game for more money. First of all, that's not really true, and I'm seeing a lot of people losing money online that are getting their games graded, and they are winding up paying more money to get it graded and all the sending than they will ever make on profit. So Wata is grading day after day. They're grading all these new games, and that's keeping them from focusing on what they really should be doing, is authenticating and telling us if the old games are true or not, because the old games are why people are collectibles. I'm not a collector because I decide to buy on eBay a copy of a game that I can buy in Walmart. That's not what a collectible person does. B, Wata is now grading CDs and DVDs, and they're grading everything, but they can't tell me if the second most popular consoles, one of its leading games, is real or not. Also, Wata is spending a lot of their time grading knockoffs. They're grading limited run games. They're grading IM retro games. So basically, somebody will build a factory and they'll start making new sealed copies of games that came out 30 years ago, and Wata will grade the fake games. So Wata can grade the fake games, but they can't tell me if Golden Axe for the Sega Genesis, one of the most influential games on the second most influential system ever, is real or not. That, to me, is a shifting of priorities to the wrong place. And finally, Wata spends so much time now, other than grading 2021 games, other than grading limited run games, other than grading CDs and DVDs, Wata now grades complete in-box games. So that's like if I bought the box of a game from New Mexico, and I bought the cart of a game from New York, and I brought the book from a game from Canada, and then I got them all together and I sent them to Wata, and Wata will look at them, and then Wata will put them in their suffocating cases, and Wata will say that it's a complete in-box game. So this is, it's crazy. People are paying a lot of money for things that they can collect on their own. If I went online to eBay, I could buy the Legend of Zelda card, the Legend of Zelda book, and the Legend of Zelda box, let's just say the NES Classic version, for $100. But if I put them all together and then I send them to Wata, and Wata puts it in one of their boxes and calls it complete in box, then I can sell it for $300. But there's not even a big profit there, because you're paying eBay 13.5% of your sale. You're paying Wata a lot of money to grade it, and you're paying all the money to ship it. So if I get a CIB game, I collect them all myself for $100, and then I resell it for $300, the profit is not even worth the efforts that I have to go through and the risks that I have to take by mailing it hither and yon to make that on paper $200, but really it's much less. So Wata spends so much time now doing frivolous things that they shouldn't be needing to do, and they're losing their expertise in grading the games that are the really important ones to grade. I consider Golden Axe as a cultural electronic heritage, just like the Spear of Destiny that the Romans got Jesus with, or just like the Iron Crown of Lombardy that Napoleon wore, or just like the first Apple smartphone. I also consider Golden Axe a relic and a very important piece of human history. And if Wata claims to be the people able to tell us the real from the fake, if Wata claims to be video game graders and experts, they should be able to tell us what one of the most important games is, if it's real or not. That's what I think. So basically, my experience is able to allow me to give some advice, because we say that experienced people are best at giving advice. So my experience with Wata is that unless you have a game that is like NES or PS1 or PS2 that you know is real before you send it to them, then I wouldn't send them any games. I wouldn't send them a game that I wasn't sure. I have maybe 10 Sega Genesis games in the clamshells. I don't buy them anymore because there's no way to know if they're real or not. But I have 10 of them, but I won't send any of them into Wata anymore because Wata can't tell me if they're real or not. So if you are thinking about using Wata or CGC or VGA, if you're thinking of using these companies, don't send them Sega Genesis games. Don't send them Commodore 64 games, because they're not going to be able to tell you if they're real or not, and they're going to send them back to you, and who knows if they're going to give you a refund or not. Who knows how much the refund will be. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your energy. You should be doing better things than sending your games in to get graded, because the people you are sending them to are not the specified experts that we were told they were. So Wata couldn't grade my games, and I go on their websites, and I feel like their website tries to infantilize the customer. All of their prompts on their website are like, if you click, all right, I'm ready to sign out, it gives you a prompt. Are you sure? Or meh, take me back. So it has like all these babyish prompts on their website that makes the customer feel like they're being infantilized. And when you're picking your speeds, you pick like warp speed or super speed, or what about just no speed? Because they didn't give me my grade, they couldn't tell me why. I'm still waiting for their email, but specifically, I want to know, why isn't this game authentic in your opinions? but they won't tell me. Probably they looked at my game for a second and then they said, meh, not sure. And they said, all right, great. Like let's grade a 2022 Halo game. All right, great. Oh, look, here's Legend of Zelda, the Wind Maker 2022. It's a good grade. Here's a fake Pokemon game, Pokemon Leaf Green. Oh yeah, let's give it a grade. Oh, but a real game, a real tough game, a real gamer's game comes through and Wata says, meh, not sure. So I think the whole thing, this was my first time using it and I was planning on using it more. I have a lot of games that I would like to get graded because they are different versions of the game. So I have a Battletoads PAL B, and the PAL B, the seam is on the side. And I'd like to know for myself if that's real or not. I would have also liked to know for myself if this Golden Axe was real or not. Because think how cool it would be. You're the only person in your town, you're the only person in your county who has a sealed copy of Golden Axe. Golden Axe is like a medieval beat 'em up game, and if you have a sealed copy of Golden Axe, that just increases your power level. So I would have liked to know if that was real, and I would like to know if my other games are real, but just the whole grading process in particular has left a sour taste in my mouth, as you can tell. And I just, my idea was to make a video to tell people that if you're unsure if your game is real or not, and it's a Sega Genesis clamshell game, or it's a Commodore 64 game, I just wouldn't send it in there unless you see other copies of the game that are like exactly the same, because they haven't evolved enough methods yet at Wata to seriously grade very rare, very valuable, and very hard to find games.